total downloads upwards of 25, 30 million, but active app installs in that 15 million vicinity. From 0 to 15 in the course of a little more than a year was quite the ride. Active users, similarly, we find a lot of our users being very, very heavily engaged, much more than what they were engaged on the desktop in terms of just repeats and launches per user per month. Active customers steadily increasing. What we find is there's a lot of snacking going on the mobile app. So people come in, kind of do a lot of sort of short bursts of activities, and then there is maybe 4 or 5 such activities that lead to potentially one sort of guy, a visitor converting to a sort of a buyer, right? So the customer growth has not been at the same clip as the user growth, but it's quite healthy as well. Traffic, so this is one of the core things, right? So from where we were to where we are today, so average traffic, so QPS means sort of your, the hits that you get on a per second basis. So that has grown from 0 to about, it's 4x from where we were. That's average, so under sort of daily sort of business as usual type scenario. And now think about, everybody bought from Flipkart during the big billion day? No? Okay. A lot of unhappy customers, looks like. Anyway, so peak traffic during the big billion day was 25x. So I'm just giving you a sense of the kind of growth that has happened. And what I want, that is sort of leading into the next piece of this presentation, which is how have we sort of prepared ourselves over the course of the year to kind of deal with this kind of scale. The traffic has grown immensely, so we'll talk a little bit about what have we done in terms of dealing with such growth in traffic, especially spiky nature of traffic, right? Short bursts of very, very high traffic that come, right, and sort of hit you along, along the funnel. Talk about, obviously speed is one of the most critical things, especially when you're buying on the phone or on the app. So what have we done in terms of improvements on our speed and performance, and we continue to do. And third and most important thing is just being able to be agile in terms of the experiments that we do on the app. The app ecosystem generally doesn't lend itself very well to doing sort of fast A/B tests that you would do in the web space, right? Getting it out to a shorter or a smaller user base, testing out features, kind of seeing how it works. So talk a little bit about what we've done to give ourselves the opportunity, at least going forward, to be able to test out features with a smaller audience and then being able to roll that out to a larger base. So talking about sort of traffic, right? So we won't go into too much of a technicality here, but it's important nevertheless. So our architecture is essentially built as a bunch of n number of services. And over the course of the year, what we've done is, aside from just putting more hardware or infrastructure just to scale, there's been massive amounts of investment in the tech stack itself, just optimizing that continuously to be able to sort of, just be able to use your even installed servers, right, much more efficiently. Again, we talked about the elasticity of that traffic, right? It's not that we are on AWS or Google Cloud where you can sort of go up and down fairly fast. This is all our sort of installed servers in our data centers. So some of the work there has been being able to isolate your services very well. When something happens, when there's a certain service in there that's not very healthy, being able to sort of isolate the damage to a minimal set of services, not the entire site coming down, as some of you may have experienced. So these are the kind of guardrails that we've built. We call that sort of isolation of services, to be able to sort of minimize the damage to a set of use cases as opposed to the entire app being down, right, not being usable. So that's a pretty, that gives us the opportunity. Again, it's not that we are there where we need to be, but it's a journey, and we're getting there. Speed and performance, again, critical, right? So in terms of just being able to continuously be able to deliver like super fast, super responsive experience, right, to the customer, there's a lot of things that go behind the scenes, right? I mean, from simple things as making sure that, your core interactions with the experience are not interrupted by other non-important things for the customer. Non-important things would be things like, the data that we assimilate for that interaction and what we are doing to aggregate that data. If you're doing that real time while you're interacting with the app, typically there are sort of latencies that creep into the experience. So being able to isolate that. So when a customer comes and starts interacting with the app, we let just that experience go through, and all the data aggregation happens when the customer, or the data aggregation, assimilation, and being pushed down happens at a time when he's not really interacting, right? So these are some of the some very cool sort of architectural / technological changes that our team have made to ensure that we continuously deliver on a super responsive app. Going forward, things like being able to load libraries dynamically for the, there are users who use the apps in different ways, right? There are features that a user may not use as much as maybe some of the other users. So trying to load like all the libraries and assume that every single user would use all the features in the app just doesn't seem right. So being able to be smart about that, being dynamic, and ensuring that a user only keeps the basic elements of the libraries that are important for him or her to complete sort of that funnel flow, right? So again, that minimizes, that optimizes your CPU, minimizes data usage, keeps the performance optimal. So these are some of the advancements that we are looking at. Again, looking at just smart progressive loading, right? Pretty common concept, but again, the difference lies in terms of how you use it. In the world of mobile apps, sort of connectivity is a challenge. So there's, you are going in and out in terms of connectivity, right? People talked about network latencies, network bandwidth, which become issues. So being able to detect that real time and being able to do smart, interesting things with it are also some of the things that the team would look at. So there are some very interesting challenges, but I think that's what excites us, that solving them would actually help us deliver much more faster experiences. Agility of launches, this was an interesting one. How many of you have actually used the Flipkart app during either the Big Billion Day or the recently concluded Big App Shopping Day? So I don't know if you notice how the complete look and feel of the app actually completely changed. So, this is what an app on a regular day would look like. As in, like today, if you opened your app and you opened Flipkart, it would look something like this. If you were there during Big Billion Day or Big App Shopping Day, the look and feel and the experience and the flow was completely different. Now, we didn't actually release a new app to the store and hope that every single one of our 15 million users will actually upgrade or install the app, right? So there's actually pretty cool technology that has gone behind this to give us this agility again, to make it happen. And at its simplest form, essentially what this does is think of the experience as a sort of a collection of widgets, if you so call it, and widgets sort of being pushed with the app releases itself. So we could continue to push new and new widgets with every single app release. And on the fly, you can reconfigure these widgets through configurations without requiring app releases. And those widgets point to specific data stores to be able to pull the data behind them. Does that make sense? So being able to sort of configure your widgets and change them on an as needed basis. Today we have a set of widgets in the library that would just keep on increasing. Here in this space, and again, I don't think, at least we have not seen any other app being able to do this in the world, honestly. In terms of just changing the complete look and feel, it's a complete pivot of the flow, from what it was to what it changes to. So kind of some of the interesting things that we would probably continue to do in this space would include things like being able to actually load the entire view from the server itself, right? So being able to change and tweak the view from the server without requiring sort of client releases. So these are some of the innovations that we would look at. Again, the good point of this is it gives us that agility that I was talking about to actually start testing out interesting things. So now if you look at it, I could actually be pushing out a different set of experience to a set of users that I may choose to versus another set without requiring me to manage how my app is released in the store and such. It's pretty complex, right? So this is, again, I mean, a pretty nifty one here, which we are pretty excited about the next year in terms of some of the innovation that we are looking at from an experience standpoint, which I'm going to get to next. So in terms of going forward, right? So now we talked about some of the baseline platform capabilities that we have, and we obviously continue to get better at it. We continue to make more and more improvements to those baseline functional capabilities or platform capabilities. And now you're looking at what do you do on top of these capabilities. So really now starting to look at some of the core capabilities of the phone itself, right? So camera, voice, location, all the sensory elements that the phone comes with, being able to sort of start to tap into it and then start creating experiences on top of them, right, which are relevant, that would be relevant to our customers. So one such, so the first area, again, I'm taking a very sort of shopping slant here. Some of it could be generic, some of it is specific. So in terms of just plain discovery, one of the changes in the one of the changes that have happened over the course of the year, and I'll be honest to own up, that back in the year, like a year and a half back when we were thinking of our first app, it was actually looking at the desktop and trying to pack a lot of things into a mobile form factor. And we all fell prey to that. It's been a learning for a lot of us, this journey, in terms of just going through multiple releases, learning about our users and their behavior, and actually starting to tweak our sort of just approach and mindset into how we start looking at sort of stitching these experiences together. So discovery, the last year was all about just investing in search, just core search, just creating as simple a navigation as possible. Again, seemed like to us, at least from the bar that we are holding ourselves to, very sort of desktop being trying to fit into a mobile form factor. So now what we are trying to look at is how do we really solve discovery in a way that the phone actually allows you to. So some of the areas that we would look at was looking at camera and seeing what does the camera really do us in terms of discovery. So being able to click an image, being able to image match, and then being able to browse the catalog, being able to search from the catalog on the go are some of the areas that we would sort of really look at. We recently had a hack day where some of the hacks that came out of that hack day just on this topic, gesture-based discovery, right? You sort of move your head, that damn sort of screen starts swiping. You wink your eye, adds the product to the cart. Again, nice fun elements. Not too much of a again, the whole thing about the app is for the Flipkart app, which is a very transactional app today. The key thing which I'll get to at a bit late in this presentation also is that how do you create sort of these type of engaging features which are also fun, just fun, cool. Not everybody is going to use it. But it creates sort of that fun sort of element in that overall sort of shopping experience, right? So if a consumer so chose to do it, we would sort of try to look at some of those areas, right? So discovery is a pretty big topic for us, again, because that is where the journey starts, just making it easier, simpler, minimal steps, getting to the right product in the fastest possible time. The second big one, again, this came from our learning again in terms of the data that we were gathering about our users, right? So again, if I'm looking what the next 2 years, 3 years is looking like, right? 400 million smartphones, about 35, 40 million PCs. That's what reports are telling us. Now, in terms of shoppers, we already know there's 15 million of them shopping on our app already. That's today. Going forward, there's going to be 100 million of them shopping on our app. So definitely beyond sort of the PC and mobile sort of hybrid user, there's going to be a lot of just users who the only mechanism for them to shop is just going to be that phone or any other alternate device that's going to be coming in the sort of the years to come. So then the question is, how do you solve for decision making of things like when you're trying to buy a product, how am I sort of really helping you decide whether this product is really right for you? And these questions do keep in your mind, right? Sometimes you try to get that feedback from your friends and family. Just asking, hey, you bought it, you asked a friend, the friend has bought it, you got that confidence, you bought it. Or you just read some specifications and you felt these were good. That's a very small segment of the users, right, who really understand the meaning of even half those specifications that are there. So this is a key thing when you think mobile and how do you help a user solve for decision making on mobile. These are some very interesting, given that use case or that problem, right? Some very interesting solutions would start emerging if you have to think of a mobile-only way. The way you have today, you have the same specifications as desktop. If you open the Flipkart app, it's that like massive table with jargons that half of the room here would not even understand when trying to buy a TV or a phone, where some of these come to the fore. So, so we're looking at some pretty interesting concepts here in terms of how we sort of connect groups of people. How do we connect you to somebody who you trust in, who you believe in, so that you can sort of get that instant feedback and that can help you, or somebody who can sort of help guide you in that process in a very mobile-centric way, so that you're much more comfortable buying that product. Again, the use case that I'm referring to is a user who who would only have a mobile device or alternate devices which are not the PC, and how is that user ever going to buy a television or a washing machine or a AC, for crying out loud, from a mobile device, right? So, those are, and that would be the case. There are a lot of users who now today gravitate to the PC to make those type of transactions, or would go to an offline store. But as the convenience becomes more palpable, as the convenience becomes more visible, people are start going to make those type of decisions. So it's a problem, not as acute today, but it will be a problem for our business if closer to 90-95% of our business is going to be on the mobile device. It will be a problem for our business, where we may find that a lot of users, if we don't solve these type of problems, a lot of users may actually not be buying the kind of catalog that we would have on the phone. And that would leave us with a different set of challenges to solve for. So that's why this is critical in terms of how we are thinking and solving for it, just for the mobile-only user. Payments, there's been enough discussions. I'm not going to get into it. All that I'll say is that I'm going to ride on all the beautiful technology that is going to be built by the likes of Paytm and PayU and the folks out there. We're going to sort of see how we can integrate and leverage some of that technology to really provide that seamless and frictionless experience, as one gentleman here pointed out, on the phone again, right? So. Simple things today, a large percentage of our orders on the phone are COD, and I think you were mentioning about how the refund experience is critical. Today, that refund experience is not self-serve at all, whether it's prepaid or COD. And God help you if you try to do a COD order, you try to return or cancel a COD order in terms of trying to get that money back. It's like you have to mail your bank account, you have to mail your some IFSC code or something like that, and then the money comes into your bank account, which is like a pain from a customer standpoint, right? So the question is, for a user, what the user is looking for is a hassle-free, one-click mechanism to return and get the money back in the fastest possible time. So that is the problem that we would actually solve in the very near future, actually, to be able to give that. So single-click debit-credit payments in the forward flow, single-click sort of refund happening in the reverse flow when you're trying to return and replace. Right, so we're going to look at that through a bunch of partnerships and working closely with the banks to be able to provide that to the customers. And finally, engagement. This is a topic, that as a company we've been sort of looking at it for the last 2 years, honestly. And the way this sort of comes out is, today as a user you would think of Flipkart or you would think of shopping when you have a need, when there's an intent. There's no reason for you to open the Flipkart app and actually casually browse. I mean, you have other better things to do in life, right? So the question is, the core problem that we start with is like, as a user, why would I even come to Flipkart when I don't have a shopping need, right? So now if you start with that problem statement and I try to break it down and see what are all the interesting things we could be doing, either sort of providing in an alternate way in terms of snacking, in terms of content, in terms of user-to-user communication, all such areas are being explored very, very deeply to be able to stitch together something where we actually can generate sort of that engagement. Again, the way we look at it is, at the end of the day today, there's a lot of awareness. Everybody heard of the 5 A's, right? So there's a lot of awareness, a lot of activations happening through acquisition. Then, the next immediate step to that is sort of amplification. Like, how do you amplify a user? How do you get him to buy more? And then eventually that user gets addicted to a certain experience, right? So as Flipkart, I don't think we are sort of in that sort of, if I sort of plot that scale, we're probably in that sort of activated user phase, mildly sort of, inching towards the amplification phase, not where we would like to be. Our goal through some of these solutions that we're thinking really is to amplify and addict users in interesting ways, right? So that is the problem statement. And some of the areas, I think there's a talk here on engagement on mobile as well, which I think would be interesting. So I'm not going to sort of go deep into this, but this is a fairly important sort of, just concept. And the mobile, it's sort of lends itself very well to be able to provide that a desktop in n number of ways does not, right? So yeah, so I breezed through that. I don't think I have anything else. Thank you so much.